Yes, my dudes, I'm Alex, and thanks for checking out another video. Let's get into a few more questions, mate. So the next question has been sent over by my man, Julian C. And Julian has asked the question, how do you play the groove in Hedron by Bad Bad Not Good? And it's the groove that starts around 2 minutes and 27 seconds. So before we get in there, this groove is heavily improvised. So what I've done is I've written out the bare bones of the groove, and then we'll talk about a couple of ways that we can improvise with it. And I'm gonna try and go through this as quick as I can so that we can answer a couple of questions today. So the first thing is, in relation to what the other musicians are playing in the track, I would personally prefer to feel this as a half-time groove. So what that means is our snare drum or our backbeat is gonna be played on beat 3 of the bar. So the next thing we're going to do, to give it that offbeat hi-hat feel, we're going to play our hi-hats on 2 and 4. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to sound like this. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to add in 1 extra hi-hat on beat 1 of the second bar. So it's going to change the feel slightly, so have a listen to that. Cool. The next step is we're going to add in our bass drums. So our bass drums are going to be played on beat 1 of the first bar, the and of beat 2, and the and of beat 4. Then in the second bar, we play the same thing, but we just don't play that bass drum on beat 1 of the bar. So that's now going to sound like this. So if you've got that down, we're going to add a couple of extra snare drums in there. So we're going to add a snare drum on the and of beat 1 and the of beat 3. That's going to sound like this. Honestly, mate, that's the bare bones of the groove. And from there, Alexander Sawinski plays a few different variations to keep the groove interesting. So one thing he plays fairly frequently is he'll add an extra hi-hat on beat 1 of the first bar. And sometimes he'll open that hi-hat, and sometimes he opens the first 2 hi-hats of the bar. So let's have a listen to that. Something else he does quite a lot is he'll replace the very last bass drum of the bar with a double stroke on the snare drum. So that's going to sound like this. From there, I would definitely suggest just having a listen to the tune and seeing what variations you can pick out. So he doesn't always play that same bass drum pattern. He definitely adds in a few extra ghost notes and changes up the phrasing on the snare drum. So have a little listen, see if you can work out some ideas, and just see if you can make it your own as well and have some fun with it, man. But this is the groove that it's based around. Now, before we go on to the next question, you did ask about that shuffle kind of feel, and the reason for this is because for the most part, throughout the track, Alexander Sawinski is swinging his grooves. So the swing is a little bit more subtle in this particular groove, but earlier on in the track, there's a heavy swing to what he's playing. So it's not technically a shuffle, but it does have that swing kind of feel to it. I would personally still prefer to read this in straight time, but you could always just write a little note on your notation to let you know that it's in a slightly swung feel. Thanks for sending in your question, Julian. I hope that answered your question. Let's go on to the next one. Next question, and a shout out to Laurence Clutson, who asked, can you really call yourself a drummer if you can't read music? And how important is it to be able to read? Mate, as far as I'm concerned, if you play drums in any capacity whatsoever, you're a real drummer. And if you think about it, drums are just like this weird made up thing that we do, and we just hit things with sticks and just hopefully have fun. So there's nobody that's not a real drummer as long as they play drums, man. But I think as a drum teacher, it's a drum teacher's job to give you all of the tools to help you get to where you want to be with your drumming. So if you have had a private lesson with me or a Skype lesson or whatever, I'm most likely going to give you some notation because I want you to learn all of the skills and not be held back in any way. But it's then your choice if you want to use that notation or if you'd rather learn things from ear or if you'd rather see it be played first. Like, everybody learns differently, and you've just got to find a way that works for you. So some good benefits of reading music is, like, if you get home from a drum lesson and you can't remember how something was supposed to sound, you can look at that music and it will help to remind you, or help you to work it out again and work out where you were in your lesson. Or if you need to learn a song quickly, you might be able to just type it in on Google and sight read a piece of music, and you can play the song without having to go and listen to it and work out bits for yourself. Or if you want to do a really particular job, like a cruise ship, or maybe you want to work in the pit at a theatre, you're going to need to read music. But if you're playing in bands, it's not 100% essential, but in my opinion, it's helpful. So you can take it or leave it, man, but either way, if you play drums, you're a real drummer. I think we'll leave it there for today, my dudes, but thanks again for sending in your questions, and I'm praying that I'm gonna have the GoPro back, hopefully by next week, and then we can get back to our regular kind of schedule, but I still might just sprinkle a few little Q&A answers into the mix as well. If you're digging the videos, hit the button to join the Wednesday crew, man, and feel free to leave a track recommendation for the Drum Hub Jukebox playlist down below. I'll see you next week.